The ultimatum, music. The morning started like any other. Across Earth until the sky changed. Commander Vexthor of the Krillex Empire stood aboard his flagship, the Dominion's Fist, and looked down at the blue planet below with satisfaction. His empire had conquered 47 worlds in the past 3 centuries. Earth would be the 48th. The process was always the same. Arrive with overwhelming force, deliver. The ultimatum, watch the primitives panic and then accept their surrender. Simple, efficient, proven. Vexthor activated the planetary broadcast system. His face appeared on every screen across Earth. He was a towering figure, even by his species standards. His skin was dark purple with silver markings that indicated his rank. 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern on his face allowed him to see in multiple spectrums. His mouth was filled with rows of crystalline teeth that glinted. When he spoke, people of Earth, his voice rumbled across every language. Through translation technology, I am Commander Vexthor of the Krillex Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our domain. You have 72 hours to surrender unconditionally. Your governments will dissolve. Your military forces will stand down. Your resources will become property of the Empire. Comply and you will be allowed to continue your existence under our guidance. Resist and your species will be exterminated. The choice is simple. The transmission ended across Earth. Chaos erupted. News networks scrambled to make sense of what happened. Religious leaders declared it the end times. Governments activated emergency protocols. Families gathered together, holding each other tight. The alien fleet hung in orbit like a dark promise. 3,000 warships, each one larger than the biggest human vessel ever constructed. Their weapons could burn continents. Their shields had never been penetrated. The Creels had never lost a battle. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains in a facility that officially did not exist, Admiral Helena Cross watched the alien broadcast with cold calculation. She was 62 years old with gray hair cut military short and eyes that had seen too many wars. She had spent the last 30 years preparing for this exact moment. Most people thought she was paranoid. Today, she would prove them right to trust her. Paranoia. Admiral Cross turned to face the assembled officers in the command center around her. Screens displayed information about the Krillex fleet. Every ship cataloged, every weapon system analyzed. The data had been gathered by hidden observation satellites humanity had placed throughout the solar system decades ago. Few people knew those satellites existed. Fewer still knew what they were designed to do. Project Sentinel is now active, Admiral Cross announced. Her voice was steady, betraying none of the fear she felt. All personnel are to assume battle stations. All hidden platforms are to power up. All experimental weapons are cleared for deployment. We have 72 hours to prepare for war. A young lieutenant raised his hand hesitantly. Admiral, permission to speak. Cross nodded. The lieutenant swallowed hard before continuing. Ma'am, the intelligence reports show the Krillex have overwhelming firepower. Their shields are impenetrable. They have never been defeated. How can we possibly win? Admiral Cross allowed herself a small smile. Lieutenant, who said anything about winning? We are not trying to win. We are trying to make them regret coming here. We are trying to hurt them badly enough that they Think twice before attacking another species, and if we die doing it, we die. Knowing we fought back, she pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's hidden defenses, orbital platforms, disguised as space debris, weapon systems built into mountains and ocean floors, experimental technology based on theories most scientists thought impossible. Humanity had spent 3 decades and trillions of dollars preparing for alien contact, not hopeful contact, not peaceful contact, the kind of contact that ended with demands and threats around the planet. Other leaders made their own preparations. In Geneva, the Secretary General of the United Earth Council stood before the assembled representatives of every nation. The vote was unanimous. Earth would not bow. In Beijing, Moscow, Washington, London, Delhi, Lagos, and Brasilia, military commanders activated contingency plans. Civilians were moved to underground shelters. Soldiers said goodbye to their families. Scientists made final adjustments to weapons that had never been tested in actual combat. Dr. Marcus Webb was one of those scientists. He stood in a laboratory in Nevada staring at the device. He had spent 15 years developing the gravitational collapse cannon, though everyone just called it the hammer. It worked on principles that violated conventional physics. It created miniature gravitational wells that could theoretically tear apart the molecular bonds of any material. Theoretically, he had never actually fired it at a real target. The calculations said it would work. The simulations were promising. But theory and reality were different things. His assistant, a young woman named Dr. Sarah Chin, stood beside him. "Do you think it will work?" she asked. Quietly, Webb shrugged. He was a thin man with nervous hands that never stopped moving. His eyes were bloodshot from too many sleepless nights. "Honestly, I have no idea. The math works, the simulations work, but we are about to fire a weapon that manipulates gravity itself at alien ships with technology we do not fully understand. If I am wrong, a lot of people are going to die." Chin put a hand on his shoulder. "If you were right, we might have a chance that is worth the risk." Webb nodded slowly. He pulled up the firing sequence on his computer. The hammer was ready. 70 stations like this existed around the planet, each one housing a similar weapon, enough firepower to surprise the Krillix, at least enough to make them bleed. Back in orbit, Commander Vexter reviewed his battle plans. The humans would surrender. They always did. Primitive species never chose extinction over servitude. It was not logical. He allocated minimal resources to the invasion. 1/10 of his fleet would be more than enough to enforce compliance. The rest would remain in reserve for the next conquest. His second officer approached cautiously. "Commander, our sensors detect unusual energy signatures across the planet, multiple locations. The patterns do not match known human technology." Vexter waved a dismissive hand. "Primitive attempts at weapons development, irrelevant. They cannot possibly threaten this fleet. Maintain position and await their surrender." The officer hesitated. "Commander, protocol suggests we investigate unknown energy signatures before proceeding with conquest." Vexter's 4 eyes fixed on his subordinate with cold anger. "Are you questioning my judgment?" The officer backed away quickly. "No, Commander, my apologies." Vexter turned back to his viewing screen. The blue planet turned Slowly below, beautiful in a primitive way, soon it would be another jewel. The Empire's crown, 72 hours began. Counting down, across Earth humanity. Prepared not to surrender, not to bow, but to fight. Admiral Cross stood in her command center and watched the timer tick away. She knew the odds, she knew. Most of them would probably die, but she also knew something the Krilleks had not learned in their 3 centuries of conquest. Humanity did not kneel easily. And when cornered, humans became very, very dangerous. The countdown continued. 60 hours remaining. The reckoning, the final hour arrived with the weight of inevitability. Commander Vexthor prepared his broadcast from the bridge of Dominion's fist around him. His crew worked efficiently at their stations. The humans had been silent for 72 hours. No communications, no negotiations, no pleas for mercy, just silence. It made Vexthor uneasy, though he would never admit it to his crew. Primitive species usually begged during the countdown. They sent desperate messages offering anything for survival. Earth had sent nothing. Your time has expired, Vexthor announced across all planetary frequencies. His 4 eyes gleamed with anticipation. You have chosen silence over surrender. This is unfortunate. I will now demonstrate the cost of defiance. One of your cities will be destroyed. You will have one final hour to reconsider. Choose wisely. He gestured to his weapons officer. Target the settlement called London. Population center. Historic significance. Their destruction will break the human spirit. The weapons officer began the targeting sequence. Energy built in the ship's main cannon, enough power to vaporize 10 square miles in an instant. The weapon fired. The beam of concentrated energy lanced down toward Earth. It struck the atmosphere and then it stopped. Not slowed, not deflected, stopped. Shimmering barrier appeared over London, invisible until the moment of impact. The Krilleks' weapon splashed against it. Like water against stone, the energy dissipated harmlessly into space. Vexthor stared in disbelief. Impossible, he whispered. No species at this development level should possess shield technology. His tactical officer's voice trembled slightly. Commander, sensors show similar barriers activating over every major population center on the planet. Hundreds of them. The shield generators are located underground. We did not detect them until activation. Before Vexthor could respond, Earth struck back. Admiral Cross gave the order from her command center. All platforms, this is Cross. Execute Operation Defiance. Fire everything across the planet and throughout Earth's orbit. Weapons revealed themselves. Satellites that appeared to be defunct. Space junk separated into deadly platforms. Mountains split open to expose massive cannons. Ocean floors erupted with missile launchers that had waited in silence for 3 decades, and in 70 locations around the globe, Dr. Webb and scientists like him activated weapons that should not exist. The hammer fired first. Dr. Webb pressed the activation sequence with shaking hands. The weapon hummed with building power. Energy readings spiked beyond safe levels. For a moment, Webb thought it might explode and take half of Nevada with it. Then it fired. A beam of twisted gravity shot into space, invisible to the naked eye, but devastating in effect. It struck a Krilleks destroyer in low orbit. The alien ship's shields activated automatically. They were designed to stop energy weapons. Kinetic Projectiles and radiation, they were. Not designed to stop gravity itself. Hammer's beam passed through the shields. As if they did not exist, it struck the hull and the ship began to collapse. Metal screamed as gravitational forces tore the vessel apart from the inside. In 3 seconds, a warship that had survived 100 battles crumpled like paper in a fist, debris scattered in all directions. Dr. Chin grabbed Webb's shoulder, her eyes wide with shock and triumph. It worked, Marcus, it worked. Webb stared at the readings in disbelief. 70 more hammers fired across the planet. 70 more acrylic ships died. In the first volley, the alien fleet, which had never known defeat, suddenly found itself bleeding. Commander Vexther watched his ships die and felt something he had not experienced in his entire military career. Fear. What are those weapons? He demanded. How are they penetrating our shields? His science officer worked frantically at her console. Commander, preliminary analysis suggests gravitational manipulation technology. They are not attacking the shield, they are attacking the space the ships occupy. Our shields cannot stop that. Vexther's mandibles clicked together in agitation. Gravitational weapons are theoretical. Even we have not perfected them. These humans were supposed to be primitive. His tactical officer interrupted urgently. Commander, more weapons firing from the surface. Conventional missiles, but in massive numbers, thousands of them. They are overwhelming our point defense systems. Earth's missile platforms launched everything they had. Not smart missiles, not precision weapons, just overwhelming numbers. Dumb rockets with nuclear warheads flying in swarms so dense they block sensors. The Krillix point defense systems tried to engage. They destroyed hundreds of missiles. Thousands, but more kept coming. Some got through. Nuclear fire blossomed against Krillix shields. The shields held, but each impact drained power. Each explosion forced the alien ships to divert energy from weapons to defense. And while they were distracted, the hammers fired again. More ships collapsed under impossible gravity. The carefully organized Krillix's fleet began to scatter. Admiral Cross watched the battle unfold on her screens. Casualties on both sides mounted rapidly. Despite the shield, some Krillix weapons got through. Paris vanished in plasma fire. Tokyo's shield generator failed and half the city burned. Mumbai took a direct hit. Millions died in seconds, but humanity kept fighting. For every human city that fell, 3 Krillix ships died. The exchange rate was terrible. Earth was losing people faster than it could count, but the Krillix were losing something they had never lost before. The certainty of victory. Commander Vexther made a decision that would haunt him. All ships, full weapons release. Saturate the planet, kill everything. His officers hesitated. Commander, that would constitute genocide. It violates the Empire's own laws of conquest. Vexther's 4 eyes blazed with fury and fear. Do it now, that is an order. The Krillix fleet opened fire with everything. Energy weapons lit up the sky. Missiles rained down like meteor storms. Earth shields held in some places, failed in others. Cities burned. Continents shook. The death toll climbed into tens of millions, but humanity had prepared for this too. Deep bunkers protected billions. Underground facilities kept the military command structure intact, and the hammers kept firing. Dr. Webb collapsed in his chair. As his weapon fired its 10th shot, the Generator was overheating. Warnings flashed across every screen. Sarah, we need to shut down before it explodes. Chin shouted over the alarms. Webb shook his head stubbornly. One more shot, we can get one more. The mathematics professor turned weapons designer manually overrode the safety protocols. The hammer fired an 11th time. The beam struck Vexthor's flagship, Dominion's fist was the largest, most heavily shielded vessel in the Krillex fleet. It had survived attacks that would have destroyed lesser ships. It could not survive gravity itself. The beam struck the bridge section. Vexthor felt the ship twist around him. Metal groaned. Bulkheads collapsed. Officers were thrown from their stations. Emergency systems failed. The flagship was dying. Retreat, Vexthor gasped into his communicator. All ships withdraw to jump. Distance, he tasted something he had never tasted before. Defeat, the Krillex fleet, or what remained of it, began pulling back. They had arrived with 3,000 ships. They were leaving with less than 2,000 in 6 hours of battle. Earth had destroyed more than 1,000 vessels. The cost was horrific. 50 million humans dead. 15 major cities destroyed. Entire regions rendered uninhabitable, but Earth still stood. Admiral Cross watched the alien fleet retreat. Her command center was silent. Officers stared at screens showing both victory and devastation. We did it. Someone whispered, we actually did it. Cross shook her head slowly. We survived. That is not the same as victory. Look at the cost. She pulled up casualty reports. The numbers were overwhelming. So many dead, so many cities gone, but humanity lived. The species continued, and they had sent a message to the galaxy. As the Krillex fleet jumped to hyperspace, Cross activated a broad-spectrum transmission. She wanted every species in the galaxy to hear this. This is Admiral Helena Cross of Earth. Today, the Krillex Empire came to our world, demanding surrender. We refused. They threatened extinction. We fought back. They lost more than 1,000 ships. We lost 50 million people. The exchange was terrible but necessary. Let this be a message to any other empire that looks at Earth and sees weakness. We are not weak. We are not prey. We are human, and humans do not bow. She paused, then continued. We mourn our dead. We will rebuild our cities. We will remember this day for as long as our species exists, but we will not regret standing up. Freedom is not free. Survival is not guaranteed, but dignity, the right to choose your own fate, that is worth fighting for. That is worth dying for. The transmission ended across Earth, in the ruins of cities and in the crowded bunkers. People listened. Some cried. Some cheered. Most simply felt numb. The battle was over, but the war for humanity's place in the galaxy had just begun. Commander Vexthor reached his home world weeks later. He stood before the High Council of the Krillex Empire, a broken commander reporting an impossible defeat. The humans possessed weapons we did not anticipate, he explained. They were prepared. They were willing to die. We underestimated them. The High Council deliberated. Eventually they made a decision. Earth would be marked as forbidden. No Krillex ship would approach that system again. The cost was too high. The humans were too dangerous. One council member asked the question everyone was thinking. Will they come for us? Vexthor thought about Admiral Cross's transmission, about the determination in her voice, about a species that chose death over submission. I do not know, he admitted. But I hope we never find out. Back on Earth, Dr. Webb stood in the ruins of his laboratory. The final shot had destroyed the hammer, but it had been worth it. Sarah Chin found him there, staring at the wreckage. What now, she asked. Webb smiled tiredly. Now we rebuild, we prepare, we make better weapons, because they will come back. Maybe not the Krilleks, but someone else. The galaxy knows about us now. Cross's message made sure of that. We are no longer unknown. We are no longer ignored. We are the species that made an empire bleed. Admiral Cross stood on the surface, looking up at stars that seem different now. Humanity had taken its first step into a larger, more dangerous universe. They had paid a terrible price for that step, but they had survived. They had fought, and most importantly, they had refused to bow. The galaxy would remember Earth, and Earth would be ready.